You ever watch something in Star Wars and think, wait a second, did the bad guy just outplay literally everyone without even standing up from his chair? Because that's what happened. Palpatine didn't win with power, he won with paperwork. While the Jedi were flipping over droids like acrobats at a rave, the guy was sitting in his office casually planning galactic genocide over lunch. And honestly, it worked disturbingly well. Now, let me paint the picture. You've got these warrior monks wielding laser swords who are supposed to be the wisest, most alert peacekeepers in the galaxy. And yet somehow, not a single one figured out that the guy giving the Republic orders sounded suspiciously like a Sith with a side hustle in evil laughs. He didn't even change his voice, didn't put on a hood, just sat in the Senate, smiling politely, while Jedi died by the dozen. And what really gets me is how beautifully awful the plan was. I mean, this wasn't some brute force, smash the door down kind of villainy. This was slow-burn Gorma-grade manipulation. Palpatine turned the Jedi into soldiers, made them fight his war, convinced the galaxy to cheer for them, then flipped the entire board with one sentence. Like a dude rage-quitting chess after already winning. It's tragic, and hilarious, and kind of terrifying how clean the execution was. One moment, Yoda's riding a lizard through a canyon. The next, he's dodging clone troopers who were hugging him 5 minutes earlier, and the Jedi didn't even hesitate to trust them. Which makes sense, because who doesn't love the guy who calls you sir and has the same haircut as your toaster? But here's the kicker. Order 66 wasn't just a betrayal. It was the end of an era. A whole philosophy wiped out not with a death ray, but with a bureaucratic memo hidden in fine print. It was the moment the prequels stopped being political drama and went full-on horror story. And the scariest part is, you don't even realize what happened until the credits roll and there's nothing left but silence and stormtroopers. In this video, we're digging deep into how Order 66 wasn't just a cool action scene, it was the greatest tactical play in Star Wars history. We'll break down the manipulation, the psychology, the step-by-step masterclass in destruction that somehow made space wizards lose to space paperwork. Buckle up, because by the end of this, you'll never watch the Clone Wars the same way again. How do you defeat an army of space monks with laser swords and mind tricks? You don't fight them head-on. You let them fight your war, carry your banner, and march into every corner of the galaxy thinking they're in control. What if the Jedi weren't protectors anymore, but pawns in a far bigger game? What if the real brilliance of Order 66 wasn't the Order itself, but everything that led to it? Palpatine didn't just launch a war, he wrote the script, cast the roles, and handed the Jedi their costumes. He orchestrated both sides, funding a droid army with one hand, while commanding the clone army with the other. Every move the Jedi made brought them deeper into his web, and they didn't even blink. It wasn't just a trap, it was a slow, deliberate transformation from peacekeepers to generals to liabilities. Think about that. The Jedi were known for wisdom and clarity, yet they couldn't see a Sith Lord hiding 2 feet from their council room. How does that even happen? Was it arrogance, complacency, or just exhaustion from a war they didn't start, but insisted on finishing? It's like watching Sherlock Holmes miss a murder because he was too busy doing PR work for Scotland Yard. And don't forget, Order 66 was already embedded in every clone trooper from the beginning. The chips, the secrecy, the loyalty programming it was all there, waiting to be triggered with a single command. Palpatine didn't just flip a switch, he built the lights, laid the wires, and made sure nobody read the manual. This wasn't a last-minute betrayal, it was a setup years in the making. That's what makes it so fascinating. It wasn't brute force that ended the Jedi, it was bureaucracy, planning, and the most patient game of chess the galaxy's ever seen. Let's be honest, it's infuriating how easily the Jedi fell for this. You mean to tell me that an ancient order of warrior monks with telepathic powers couldn't sense a Sith Lord running the Senate? The same group that trained children from birth to feel disturbances in the Force somehow missed the biggest one in 1,000 years. How do you even mess up that badly? And they weren't just wrong, they doubled down on it. Mace Windu literally had Palpatine at saber point, and still gave him a chance to monologue his way out of it. Obi-Wan, arguably the most level-headed Jedi alive, never once questioned how convenient this war was. And Yoda, wise old Yoda, was too busy hopping around Kashyyyk to realize the whole thing was spiraling into disaster. It's maddening. The Jedi thought they were adapting by becoming generals, but they were just abandoning everything that made them Jedi. No wonder Anakin snapped he was getting mixed messages from every direction. Trust the Council. Spy on the Chancellor. Don't form attachments. But also, lead troops into battle, and maybe die for a republic that doesn't even fully trust you. There's something haunting about watching a Jedi go down without ever understanding why. You see it in the way Ki-Adi-Mundi turns around in confusion before getting gunned down. You see it in Aayla Secura's silent fall in the jungle. They trusted those clones with their lives. And in the end, That trust killed them. Even Anakin's fall hits differently under this lens. He wasn't just manipulated, he was broken down piece by piece, made to question every belief he ever held. The Jedi failed him, yes, but they also failed to see how much he was hurting. How desperate he was to stop the pain, the fear, the nightmares. Palpatine didn't offer him power, he offered him certainty. We often talk about the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker, but Order 66 was a galaxy-wide tragedy. It was the death of an era, the destruction of a culture, and the silencing of 1,000 voices that once brought balance and wisdom to the Force. It wasn't just the end of the Jedi, it was the end of hope for generations to come. And the clones, they weren't villains. They didn't choose this. Those chips stole their free will and turned them into weapons. The same men who fought alongside the Jedi, laughed with them, respected them, were forced to become executioners in an instant. That's not betrayal, that's a war crime written in binary. It's hard to watch because it wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. Not one born of hatred, but of cold, calculated control. And it leaves behind nothing but silence. But as horrifying as it was, you have to admit it was genius. Not morally right, not justified, but brilliant in execution. Palpatine didn't just remove his enemies, he turned the entire galaxy into his cheering section while he did it. That's next-level villainy. He used the Jedi's strengths against them, their sense of duty, their loyalty, their blind obedience to the Republic. He made sure they were always a little too late, a little too unsure, and a little too isolated to do anything meaningful. He didn't crush them with a hammer, he bled them out with a scalpel. The war itself was the perfect misdirection. While everyone was watching Clone versus Droid, Palpatine was rewriting the Constitution, consolidating power, and building an empire from the ashes of democracy. He even got the Senate to applaud the death of freedom like it was a fireworks show. And the Order 66 moment, that wasn't just the climax, it was the encore, the cherry on top of a masterclass in deception. Imagine orchestrating a galaxy-wide purge with a single sentence. No follow-up orders, no speeches, just one command. And it worked flawlessly. But even in that darkness, there were survivors, and they mattered more than they knew. Obi-Wan escaping Utapau, Yoda sensing the betrayal just in time, Kanan growing up in hiding, Ahsoka finding her own path. They were proof that the Jedi weren't gone, they were just scattered. And those few sparks of resistance, they lit the fire that would eventually become the rebellion. Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, Saw Gerrera, they saw what the Jedi couldn't. That the Republic wasn't coming back, and something new had to rise in its place. Luke's journey later on isn't just about becoming a Jedi, it's about restoring a legacy. He doesn't follow the old ways blindly. He learns from them, adapts, makes them his own. That's the power of survival, it gives you the chance to evolve. Even the clones, once freed from their programming, found new lives. Some joined the rebellion, others just tried to live in peace. Rex, Wolf, Gregor, they were soldiers, yes, but they were also victims. And they didn't let Order 66 define them. Hope didn't die with the Jedi. It went underground, into exile, waiting for the right moment to return. Because in Star Wars, the dark side wins battles, but never the war. Order 66 didn't just end the Jedi, it proved how fragile power really is. All it took was one man, with enough time and vision, to tear apart a 1,000-year-old institution from the inside out. Not with a lightsaber, not with a Death Star, but with lies, politics, and patience. It's a tragedy not just because of who died, but because of what died with them. The Jedi were flawed, yes, but they represented something noble, something bigger than themselves. In trying to save the galaxy, they became blind to how much they were losing. And by the time they noticed, it was already too late. Palpatine didn't win because he was stronger. He won because he understood people, their fears, their desires, their weaknesses. He used the very trust people had in institutions to erase those institutions, and they thanked him for it. But the lesson of Order 66 isn't just about politics or war. It's about vigilance, about never assuming that power is safe just because it wears a robe or holds a council seat, about questioning the narrative even when it feels comfortable. Because when evil finally reveals itself, it's usually after the last applause has faded and the lights have already gone out. Thank you for watching the whole video. I make videos because of my love for Star Wars and Marvel. I've been asked countless times how I get my subtitles, and I generate them automatically with a tool I built. That same tool can be used here on my website. It's completely free and doesn't require signing up. My website contains the subtitle generator that is perfect for any video. Blogging post, where you can sign up with your email and receive notifications for when I post, and also my 3 channels. Critical Analysis Hub focuses on Star Wars and Marvel movies. Critical Analysis Hub Plus looks at Star Wars and Marvel shows. And Critical Analysis Hub XP centers on video games, like the Last of Us series, Jedi Survivor, and GTA 5. Thank you for being a fan.